Get his
Good.
face.
What?
Good
morning and happy Thursday. Okay, let's go to our chair now. Wow.
Good morning.
We are in a three-way relationship with Mr. Boogie. Hello, everybody, and good morning. I hope that you're enjoying seeing my very special appearance today. As you all know, in the morning, I like to stay very comfortable in my bed, but I chose to come say hi. But I must go now.
Because I'm wiggling everywhere. He's like kicking his feet.
Yeah, he's like, get me out of here. Thank you, Boogie, for joining us.
Yeah, good boy. Okay. All right, who we got here this
Good
morning?
morning.
To Jerry and Jeanette and Kristen, Andrea, Molly,
Marianne, I just thought
Jeremy.
about something.
Brittany, Michelle, Jerry, we said, Mary, Mel, Tiffany, Bethany, Bethany Bledsoe.
I think she was on our show like a week or two ago.
I believe you are correct.
Great, you guys. Well, good morning. Today is Thursday, and Thursday we like to talk about relationships. Last week, I went solo as Erin did some fancy stuff.
She was being supportive.
I was being supportive, and we talked about being a supportive partner. But you know, today we're gonna get very real and vulnerable with you guys, as you know we do on a very regular basis. But you know, today is gonna be part one of a two-part series with regards to things that you need to talk about, you know, with your significant other in order to not just improve your relationship, but to actually have a fulfilled relationship where both parties are on the same page. So, you know, something that we always talk about is the importance of your own self-development, because here's, especially before you get into a relationship, because a relationship magnifies, right? Because, you know, instead of just having one unit, you know, as part of the universe, we now have two units, right? So two instead of one obviously magnifies the problems that we have, or magnifies all the amazing stuff that are going on.
If you don't have a good relationship with yourself and you join a partnership romantically with somebody else, it becomes a relationship.
Yes, exactly. And you know, like we've said before, we do not consider ourselves relationship experts by any means, okay?
Well,
however, we do have life experience, and I would consider ourselves to be an extremely happy couple and fulfilled couple.
Hold on. What's an expert? How many hours? 10,000 hours? I have some math to do.
Sure.
Because I believe our own relationship and everything that we've been through counts, because every single day.
But teaching it, we have not taught it.
Do you have to teach for 10,000 hours to be an expert?
I don't know.
Or learn for 10,000 hours?
Look, we already know that. I mean,
okay.
These standards are.
Let's do
whatever.
This.
4.5 years.
4.5 times 365 is that. Okay, so then times 60 minutes times 24 hours in a day. That's 39,420 hours.
I guess according to
if we want to spin it, we can say
to the world's definition, yes, you can say that. But like we said, I mean, look, any piece of advice that we're giving you is purely out of our previous mistakes and, you know, everything we've learned from it and from our own current experience. So let's get to it, okay? Something that we always talk about when it comes to a relationship, and that's why self-development is such a huge part of, you know, just mastering your relationship or continuously growing into a better relationship, is the concept of communication.
What 3 things are we talking about today?
3 things?
We have 6. Today's part 1. I forgot to say part 1, so note that.
So the 3 things we're talking about today are finances, trust, and intimacy.
Ooh, let's talk about sex, baby. Let's talk about you and me.
So, I mean, communication is really important, okay? But the problem is that most people are not even self-aware, which means that they don't communicate with themselves, right? So they're out of touch, right, with themselves. You guys, like, we're a body, a mind, and a soul. There's a lot that's happening, right? And that's why weight loss is done wrong most of the time, because people only focus on one element to the puzzle, right? They only focus on the body. They don't focus on the mind and on the soul. So what happens is that they end up being out of alignment, and that's why they can't sustain or, you know, grow upon the results that they've achieved. But, you know, people don't communicate with themselves, right? People are unaware of who they are.
Can I throw out one blanket statement? Because that's something that could be said about anything, any of these 3 topics that we're going to discuss.
Sure.
So here's the blanket statement. No matter what we say is, or what we suggest as important to your relationship with a partner or significant other, must first be done well with yourself. Oof. That's the blanket statement. Okay, because we could say this for every single thing. Intimacy. You have to know what you like. You have to know you, right? You have to know your language of love. You have to know, right? So all of this happens first with you. That's the blanket statement. So now whatever we talk about from here on out in regards to relationships, you have to be able to do that thing for you first before you can do that thing well with somebody else. Now, I know that there are probably people in relationships that still want to work on aspects of themselves. That doesn't mean that you need to not be in that relationship. You can start making progress towards doing these things better. Just keep in mind, you need to be able to do them better for yourself first, and then with somebody else. And you could even try doing that simultaneously, but you have to know that it has to come from within you first.
Mm-hmm. And I think with, I would say that this is probably a more common problem between heterosexual relationships, where, like, females expect the dudes to just do things. Of course, in gay relationships, because, like, there's a lot of, you know, I mean, same sex. I don't think that it is as blatant as it is in heterosexual relationships, especially the traditional, like, heterosexual relationships, like, you know, in the Middle East and Africa and Asia. Like, I would say that, you know, there's definitely, like, still that expectation that, you know, the man has a certain role and the woman has a certain role, right? Instead of, like, collaborating together as a unit. And that's why, like, I think, you know, that's one of the reasons why I wanted to be in this country, because, you know, the way that people live their lives, you know, in other places is old school. And it's in Israel, I wouldn't say it's demoralizing, but, like, it's not modern, right? And I want to be able to create everything for myself. Therefore, I must also have a lot more responsibility, right? Like, why should I rely on a man to provide for me all these things? That is unfair. I think that I just want to put it out there, because I feel like a lot of women expect their man to do X, Y, Z. Like, no, dude, you need to own your shit.
Each duo presents their own challenges.
Yes.
Man, woman,
Mm-hmm.
woman, man turned woman dating a woman, man turned woman dating a man, woman turned man dating a man, woman turned man dating a woman, It doesn't matter. Like every duo, a woman and a man, they all present their own challenges.
Yes.
Okay, so however you want to swing that life, baby.
Yeah.
The thing that you have to know, okay, so for example, woman and a woman.
Yeah.
For the longest time, I was like, well, you know, I have a preference when it comes to my sexuality, but when it comes to emotions, I will never be in a relationship with a girl. I would never do it. Because that's what I used to think. Because girls, y'all know how fucking bonkers we are. So when you put two of us in a relationship together, shit can hit the fan hard. Because they've got two crazies in one room all the time. So that was my perception and reason why that I thought that way. I was like, no, I know I'm already crazy enough. Why would I want to have two of those?
Yeah.
You know, there's not enough space or energy in the world for that.
Yeah.
So if you're gay as a female, you know that. If you're not, then you know that there's a certain amount of crazy we have as a female. But the more you work on yourself and the more development that you have, the more you understand where you're coming from and have the ability to put yourself in the other person's shoes, regardless of gender.
Amen to that. Okay, so remember, communication is important. Now, so we'll just go down the line. Talking about finances, man, I think that is probably one of the biggest reasons why there's such a high... actually, it's one of them. The second one is the other one too. Financial struggles or lack of communication with regards to financial responsibility and financial opportunity is, a big reason why a lot of couples either end up being unhappy and staying together or just having the balls to get divorced, right? Just to put it out there, I think that the worst thing that you can do as a couple, if you're unhappy, is to still stay together. Like, why? If something doesn't serve you, let it go. And I see that happen all the time. Like, that is putting the biggest burden on you. Unless you're both actively working on fixing shit, then okay, I respect it. But if you ain't, then fuck, dude, just let it go, right?
That person has to be worth the effort and the energy to make it work, though. So before you decide, I'm going to get out of this relationship or fight to stay in it, is that person worth fighting for? Not as a person, as an individual, they have value, yes. But as the way that person lives and how you guys connect with one another, is that synchronicity or lack of worth fighting for? Because sometimes people just don't mesh well together. And we evolve, and you either evolve together or you evolve apart. And if you evolve apart, doesn't make you a bad person. But you need to recognize if it's worth mending.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you're going to have to fight for that.
So finances, for one, we talk about it in our money conversations, right? Like, if you don't set a financial goal, chances are is that you're going to stay stuck in the same situation, but normally staying stuck over time means that it's only going to get worse, right? Like, here's the thing. Most people are not goal driven because we don't learn to do that in school, right? We learn 2 + 2, we learn about, a whole bunch of stupid shit, but we don't actually learn to apply it in life, right? So like people go into the outside world, right? Kind of like flowing through the stream that everybody else is, just like trying to get by, right? So, and that is why it's also really important to know yourself, to actively work on developing yourself, because for one, you need to have financial goals, right? Mm-hmm. Because here's the thing, like money is so important, right? Like money doesn't buy you happiness, but money magnifies too.
But it can buy you a boat.
Money makes good things better. Money makes bad things worse, because money is a resource, right? Money is a resource. So if you're limited on resources, right, of course, that creates stress. or if you guys are not on the same page with regards to where your resources are going, then that's a struggle. And do you want to share with them, like,
I know what you're gonna say.
basically like the day that I found out like about the financial distress that you were in when we were like 2 years into our relationship?
Yeah, well, you knew that I had debt. You didn't know the extreme, and I it was never brought up. I never really thought about discussing it, right? Until we did, and then shit hit the fan, and we had to work through some things. So I made, like I've already shared before, I made some really shitty decisions from like a young age, like 18 years old, when I got a credit card and I was like, oh my God, with a $500 limit. It's silly now, but anyways, so, I was like, wow, I can buy these things and not have to pay it back. So then I got myself into this position, and not only that, but I developed habits. Okay, so just like nutritionally, like if you're gaining weight and you're developing bad nutritional habits, eating, ice cream every night or whatever, like digging through the pantry like a raccoon looking for chocolate every night, like you develop habits and bad behaviors, and you dig yourself into a debt, right? A nutritional debt, or for me, it was a financial debt. And when you're trying to pay it back, and then you have interest, and then it's accumulating, and you're not paying the full amount, and it's like it's impossible. It feels impossible to escape from. And because I still had the habits that I didn't even realize, I just kept making stuff shittier. And I'd be like, oh, I want to get out of debt, but then I'd buy a pair of shoes. So it's like, do I really? It's like people when they say I want to lose weight, and then you eat like 4 donuts for breakfast on Sunday. Like, do you really? So we might want something, but not realize our why to be strong enough to actually move us into action. Mm-hmm. And we ended up having a conversation about it, and like we put all the cards on the table. It was like, this is where we're at. I felt like a terrible person.
It was a very tough day. Like we had to like separate from ourselves for a couple of hours. Mm-hmm. And like I remember it was a Saturday night. I was like, I'ma just go to the gym. Like at that time we didn't have our gym in our garage. So like I was like, I'ma just spend Saturday night at the gym, like take out like, all of my negative energy into like something to kind of like clear my space. Like she needs to think, I need to think. Like we know that we love each other. We had to put all the cards out on the table, but like
we had a hill to climb.
Yeah, we had a hill to climb together. So like for me, I had to make the commitment of supporting her, but I also had to make the commitment of holding her accountable to her words.
For sure. And as the person on the other end, when you feel bad for having felt like you negatively affected somebody that you care about so much, moved me into action. I had a why now, right? So that was it's an example of a difficult situation that you can either choose to continue to crash into each other like this, or you can choose to say, what needs to happen? Who needs to be held accountable to what? Who needs to be supportive, and how can they support legitimately without continuing to make the other person feel bad, right? So it's in 2 parts, and this where it comes into, you have to be good with you. You have to take ownership. Mm-hmm. You have to look inside yourself and say, what did I do that I could have improved upon? In this situation, it could have seemed like maybe I am completely 100% at fault. But for her, because we are people who will own our shit and say, what can I do that could make this situation better, that I have control over, to move us both forward as a partnership? Because if you know you truly love that person, you're not going to continue to blame them. You're going to see, how can I support them?
Yeah.
How can I help you move forward and help us move forward?
Yeah.
So that was that situation.
But that's why it's also so important to gain that confidence within you, because if you don't, there's no way in hell I would have brought up that shit. Mm-hmm. Like the Sarit of 10 years ago, like I would have like swept it under the rug. But then like you have that storm.
It gets resentment.
You have that storm inside your stomach, mm-hmm. right? And I remember, when we we took Sergeant to play, and I told you, I'm like, you know, there's something in my heart and it doesn't feel good. And, you know, we went back home, we had a serious conversation, put all the cards out on the table. But that's why we always say, you guys, gaining physical confidence within yourself is so important, because you will never learn to either trust yourself or to speak up for yourself. Right? And here's the thing, like, I would like to think that most of the people in the world do mean good. Yeah. Some people are just terrible people, yes, but I think that most people do mean good. Of course, Erin loved me. Like, if you guys like see us now, like you obviously, like, we love each other very much, and our love has been like that, like, since day one. It only keeps getting better. However, yes, we've been through some shit, but you know what? If I didn't feel confident and comfortable in my own self, there's no way that I would have been able to speak up when I felt what I felt, in order to drive her into action, to take responsibility and ownership with regards to that, right? So the reality is, you know, like, as a couple, like, you need to set goals together, especially financial goals, right? Like, if things are out of balance, unless the couple says that, okay, like, we're totally cool with it, right? Like, you know, I'm just going to take care of all of the money stuff and you're going to stay home, take care of the kids, cool. But, like, we need to set that expectation together, and we need to be on the same page, because otherwise what's going to happen is that there's going to be increased stress, there's going to be increased resentment, and that's going to, for one, make you evolve apart. And when there is resentment, it's going to make you hate one another. So, like, what's the point, right? But it's really important to talk about finances and set financial goals together, clean financial shit up together, and, you know, work towards something, because money runs the world, right? Like, money's currency, right? Currency, like, makes current, drives things around, right? Like, your life won't be able to move if there's no money. So if there's no financial goals and you guys are not on the same page, you're not flowing in the current, you're stuck.
You said, you know, you need to have the self-confidence to be able to approach a situation like that. But I want to flip it the other way and say, you also have to have faith that and confidence by the way that that person treats you, to know that you can come to them with something that's not easy to talk about, and you're not going to be rejected.
Yes.
Because if I made her feel in any way within our relationship, based off of my actions, you know, leading up until this point, that if she approached me with anything that is difficult to talk about, that I'm going to reject her or fight against her or have resistance or push back on her, that makes it a lot more difficult for the other person to communicate with you. Mm-hmm. So you have to be confident enough to be able to share what you need to share, but you also need to let your person know that they can share with you without you pushing back on them or thinking you're wrong. How dare you offend me by saying I have issues with X, Y, or Z.
Yeah.
You know, and you deserve to be in a relationship with somebody who's going to make you feel confident also to approach them in situations that are not easy to talk about, but necessary for you to all move forward. If they're going to push back on you, if they're going to resist you or say you're wrong, or I can't believe you would say that to me, or make you feel bad in any way, that is not somebody who is good with themselves. And maybe, I don't know.
I want to bring up another example too. Like, let's say, right, like, this is why it's important, because sometimes working towards a financial goal might mean, for a limited time, spending less time together. Ooh. Now, this is something that lesbians, I know, have a big problem with. Let's say you have a financial goal, which is like to either get out of debt, or, you know, to make more money so that you can make like an investment in yourself towards a program or something. But because you're not comfortable speaking up to the person, or because you just don't know how to, or because you haven't thought about it, right? Like, the significant other might give you shit like, why aren't you spending time with me on a Saturday night? Like, that is like the most like unsupportive thing, and something that is so common that I hear all the time. I'm like, dude, if you love that person, wouldn't you want them to get better? Wouldn't you want to support them, right? So sometimes supporting them means that for a little bit of time, you guys don't get to spend as much time together, right? And that's why it's important to just have that conversation, work towards something, set that expectation so that you guys can both be fulfilled. Because remember, if I wasn't fulfilled in my own personal growth and development, do you think I'll be fulfilled being with her? Absolutely not. And vice versa, right? So like, that is just one example that I wanted to bring up, because I know that sometimes like people have this expectation that if I was to go and get a second job right now, like so-and-so will be so mad at me. I'm like, that is the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
Yeah, it all then goes into communication, which is another thing that we're talking about. And these are all just kind of intertwined, so we're kind of just going at it together, not one by one. But when you communicate with somebody, you can remain on the same page. If you have a book and there's this many pages in it, and one of you is over here and the other one is over here, you're going to be missing a little bit of information to provide clarity that gives you the whole story or the idea of the entire book, right? Mm-hmm. So it's important to communicate, because you need to be heard and you need to listen. They need to be heard and they need to listen. So, if you are, and this sometimes requires vulnerability. Is that on your thing?
No.
It's important. But that requires vulnerability, because if you're going to talk about something that you struggle with this person, we then have this feeling of, I'm not perfect, so I'm less than, so I'm embarrassed to share this thing with you. But you have to, because that person deserves to know the full you. If you're going to be in a relationship, be all the way in the relationship. Mm-hmm. Don't be part way in the relationship. And that requires the use of your words. This is why we have language, and it is beautiful.
Yep.
So if Sarit were to never communicate her struggle with me, and we were never to communicate how we're going to progress or move forward, we would still be struggling today. We actually probably wouldn't be together.
And we wouldn't have had this show.
We wouldn't have this show. We wouldn't have our business. We wouldn't be in the place that we're in financially. We wouldn't have any of the things that we have.
Yeah.
Communication
is key.
So then you have to be able to communicate, hey, look, I've been struggling with XYZ, or hey, I need your help with something.
Can you help me pick up the slack?
Yeah, or can you help hold me accountable?
Yeah.
Or, hey, I've been thinking about this. Hey, I read this and it made me think about this. This morning, I just said, hey, yes, I read something and it really put something on my heart and I just want to share it with you. I don't have any expectation of where this conversation is going to go. I just want to share it with you and get your thoughts. Mm-hmm. That is so harmless and ridiculously helpful.
Yeah.
Because oftentimes we wait. We think about something and we don't say it. We're like, okay, I'm going to just do it on my own. I'm just going to take action. I'm just going to start doing this thing, whatever. And I'm thinking about specifically the work situation. We're like, oh, I'm going to pick up a second job to start making more money to support our family. Where one person might have an amazing intention. I want to support my family better. I want to provide better for them. The other person might be thinking, why aren't you spending so much time with me? You know why you think different things? One person's over here on this page and the other one's over here on this page. And if you talk, you know what's going on and you can come to an agreement.
Yeah.
And then nobody resents anybody.
Yeah.
Because you both talked about it. And if somebody does resent somebody else, then you can come back and say, well, we did talk about this and I was under the impression that you thought this way about it. So I was acting this way. And you just talk.
By the end of the day, communication is like the driver for everything with regards to improving your life. And that's why if you're in the inner circle, I tell you this all the time. I need you to communicate with me each and every day, because you communicating with me tells me that you're in action, right? If two partners right? Like, don't communicate with one another. Don't set the time to speak with one another. Like, even if it's just 20 minutes a day, guess what? They're not in action together. So chances are is that they may fall apart, right?
If your car broke down, do you think it would be easier to push it to a gas station by yourself or with somebody else? Obviously, 2 will be better than 1. But the person has to know your car's broken down and be willing to help. And that requires communication. So this is just a very simple, plain example. When one person is pushing in the opposite direction, you're not going to get anywhere. Like, one person's pushing from the front of the car and the other person's pushing from the back of the car. Like, you're getting nowhere. And you're wasting so much energy.
Yeah.
Right? So get on the same page, get your asses on the same side of the car, and work as a team.
Yeah. Take ownership too. Like, you fucked up, let's say you're in debt and the other one is not. Like, that doesn't make you any lesser. It only makes you lesser than when you don't take ownership and you start lying to yourself and you start lying to somebody else. Because now we start to lose trust.
It wasn't even the debt situation either. It was the fact that we didn't communicate about the
everything that was going on.
What's the word? To what extreme it was, or all the details about it, you know, and how it was affecting not just me, it's not just my debt. If we want to, look, any baggage you have or any baggage your person has is going to come with you if you're going in a relationship together. You get married, guess what? You marry into baggage, or they marry into baggage, or you both do. You need to know that the baggage is there and that it's being worked on together as a team.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't just me. Yes, I had to take action, but I also needed to be supported by not spending as much time together, right? So it's always a two-way street, and if you're not on the same page, you're going the opposite directions on the street.
Yeah. Imagine air traffic control. Like, if planes didn't move right? Like, if we didn't have planes that would land in one direction and planes taking off in the other direction, what would happen?
Imagine if air traffic control didn't communicate properly.
Yeah.
We'd have explosions in the sky.
Right? So it's the same. Okay. We can talk about the second part today, but I think we're gonna turn it into a 3-part series instead of a 2-part series because
we always talk about a lot of things.
Yeah. So talking about your finances is crucial, okay? The second thing that you got to talk about, okay, is trust. So here's the thing. Trust is the foundation of a relationship, of any relationship.
The more you communicate,
any relationship, whether it's like in your marriage with the person you're dating, with your boss, with, you know, if you're a client of ours, with us. Trust is everything, you guys. And trust takes time to build, but it could literally be shattered in a second.
But it also takes communication.
Yes,
it's hard to trust if you're not communicating because you don't know where somebody's at. It always comes back to
yeah. So last week I asked them a question, but you weren't in it. So I want to ask you that. I want to ask you guys that same question. If you've ever been cheated on, can you type in the comments me? If you've ever been cheated on, type in the comments me. Now, the reason why I'm asking you that is because, like, you will see how the comments are just going to keep coming. But, like, I would say that my theory is that everybody was cheated on in their life at least once. At least.
We're talking specifically in a romantic relationship because you can also say, like, anybody who's cheated you in any way, you then are skeptical of that next scenario regardless.
Yeah, no, I mean in a romantic relationship in this case.
But I'm just saying it applies to other areas of life.
Yeah. So, like, look, saying that we've been cheated on means that we are already skeptical when it comes to people. We're already skeptical when we meet them, right? Because we've been hurt before, right? And the way that our brain operates is going into a new experience. We always expect the new experience to be like the old one because that is the only thing that our brain remembers. Our brain remembers how your last experience ended, right?
Man, I think that people cheat. I'm thinking about
Because
it right
they've
now.
been hurt.
No, I don't think people cheat because they've been hurt. I'm thinking about it now. I think that people cheat because they're not with the right person.
Well, that's true for sure.
100%. Look, we get in these relationships because certain parts about relationship make us feel good, right? Like the feels, right? Like, oh my God, you're holding my hand. Oh, and I have like these emotions and it feels so good. And when we snuggle and when we kiss and when we watch a movie together and we think about these things that we want that make us feel good from the outside, when that person provides nothing for us other than that. So we think about, oh, when it's good, it's so good. But when it's not, it's like the worst thing in the world. Have you ever thought that though? Like, oh man, you know, this and this and this and this. But when it's good, it's so good for like 10% of a relationship.
Didn't I tell you guys that like last week too?
So look, I have absolutely negative desire to ever approach or have any kind of relation or relationship or anything with anybody else, even flirting. Because, you know, the first person I will think about that I'd be like, wow, you would never live up to that. This one. Oh. So we've had this conversation too. As this Erin and Sarit name grows, as it's been, and as humbly as I can say all of this, like the more people who come into our community, the more people who know who we are, the more opportunity there will be for other lesbians who are like, oh my God, they're hot, whatever, I'm gonna go for that one or that one. There's lesbians that do not give a shit. You're in a relationship.
I used to be one of them.
You used to be one.
I used to be a shark.
So it's like you don't care. You're like, I'm gonna go for that, right? Yeah. And there will be times, I know I'm not even, I have no sliver of a doubt that there will be moments where either of us, we are caught alone or separate from each other. Somebody's gonna hit on us. I'm gonna laugh. Mm-hmm. Like, you must be out of your mind. Like, sorry, have you seen her? Sorry, do you understand a relationship that we have? Like, and that is how you know that that is your person. If the thought, like, I'll even think, like, I admire bodies. I admire beauty. I admire people who are attractive, right? Female, male, doesn't matter. I'm like, wow, look at that physique. Dang, she's got a nice booty.
And we give somebody a compliment too, like all the time.
I will tell it, like if a girl has a big round ass that's like built, like earned. Yeah. I would say it in front of you. Right. That's because I know that you know. I'd be like, dang.
You know what? You know the discipline it takes. Like the other day when we were getting our hair done, which was like 3 weeks ago, right? This older woman, you could tell that she was in her 50s. But her arms looked really defined. And I told her, I'm like, I just want you to know that your arms are amazing. And whatever it is that you're doing, keep up the amazing work. I know the amount of discipline it takes. And she's like, oh my God, that is the sweetest thing I've heard all day. Thank you. And she's like, and I mean, look at you. And I mean, of course, but it takes one to know one. Like, I know how much work I put into my body for how many years I've done it. But just because we're giving out a compliment doesn't mean anything.
Right. So it's like when you know it's your person, when you could give two shits about engaging in anything with anybody else.
But the reason why talking about trust is important is because, as you guys saw in the comments, like, we've been cheated on, right? Like, so you go into a relationship, like, already, like, your heart has been broken. You've been hurt before. You need to talk about the expectation that you set, right? Because, again, trust takes a really long time to build, and trust takes like a second to be, to lose?
Taken away.
To be taken away. Yeah. Exactly. For example, you know, like, I know that a lot of times couples are like, oh, there's no way I'm going to look into someone's phone. That's like our boundary, whatever. Of course, if you said boundaries, that's amazing. However, like I never have fear looking into Erin's phone, right? However, we don't just snoop into each other's phone, but we do run a business together. So sometimes she's not in a room, she gets a call, okay, like I have to pick it up, and vice versa.
Yeah, or it's like I need a photo. Like I need to find a photo for Instagram. Let me look at your phone.
Right.
I'll grab her phone and I'll just start scrolling around. Like there's
never that feeling of, oh, what do I need to like delete or hide from her?
Yeah, do I need to look for something? Do I need to delete something? It's like the only thing I've hidden was the fact that I was gonna propose to you, and that was hard as shit.
Yeah.
Gosh, that was hard.
Yeah. So, having communication about how, like, who has hurt you before? What does it take for me to hurt you? Like, setting the expectation is important, because if you don't set the expectation, you could be doing something that's so, what's the word that I'm looking for? Not small, but you could be doing something that has like a good
innocent.
Yes, you could be doing something that's so innocent, but if the person has trust issues and there's no expectation set and they don't understand the context, like trust can be lost over something so small.
That's also, again, like if you get into a new relationship, communicate the fact that you have fear, that you have trust issues because of XYZ. Hey, look, I want you to know that I might act this way or that way. It's because this happened in my life, so I hope that you can understand that, whatever. Okay, boom, it's out on the table. Now they don't know why you're acting weird or scared or whatever, and they don't have to think it's because of something that they've done.
Yeah.
Right? Communicate your feelings.
Or I want you to know that there's this kind of person in my life and they play, so-and-so role. Yeah. Like, when we met for the first time, during the first week, I had to put the cards out on the table. I mean, I already saw a ring on your finger, so I knew what I was getting myself into.
Some of y'all know our full story. A lot of you don't know all of it.
But I told her, I'm like, hey, there's something I need you to know. I'm like, I'm married to another woman, but like...
Well,
but here's the story.
You didn't even say it like that. She was with you.
Yeah.
But, and it's going to sound weird from those who don't know our story, but she was married. I was getting married in a month.
Yeah.
Now, the story makes sense when you hear all of it together, but this episode is not about that. So at another time, we're happy to share that story with you, and we're probably going to be writing a book about it anyways, so... There's that.
But yeah, I mean, the reason why when we met you and everything was so good and there was actually support.
All the cards were on the table from the first second.
Day one.
From the first second. They knew my situation. I knew your situation.
Yeah, and there was complete trust.
Yep.
There was complete trust, and that's what made the story so good.
It's so good.
But trust, look, we've all been hurt before. We've all been jaded by people. Look, we're all humans and people fuck up, right? And people fuck up because, some people, could be cheating on you because maybe they were in a relationship and they were just like in a dark place and they just needed to get it out of their system. Right? I've been there. I've done that. I'm not a perfect person whatsoever, and that's why I'm saying it. Or maybe what are other scenarios?
There's no rule book on life.
Right.
You have to know if my intentions are pure and I'm going to do my best in the situation that I'm in. Because I know for myself, when I was in that situation, though I felt good about everything all the decisions that I made. Mm-hmm. There were people along the way who took things personally or were offended personally by the decisions that I made, thinking that, I'm a bad person or whatever, not knowing my heart. And I actually said that. Like I wrote a handwritten letter to the one person who was the most offended
Yes.
because she took things really personally.
Yeah.
And I said, look, there's no rule book on life. I'm really doing my best. All I can hope is that you can see that I'm not here to harm anybody. But, you know, in my heart, knowing just like the decisions that anybody makes in life, it's like as long as you do your best to protect you and to protect the ones you love and care about, you're good.
Yeah. So trust is something that has to continuously be built and continuously be followed through with, and trust could be taken away within a second. And that's why it's really important to communicate about the expectation, what you expect as a receiver, but also what are the expectations for you to provide as a giver. Right? It's very selfish to just expect from the other party, but not to set an expectation for yourself and continuously talk about it, right? Like, and audit it. Erin and I talk about, you know, things that we've done in the past and how things are different now, the expectation that we have for one another. And that is why, like, you know, Erin said what she said, like, we are freaking solid, right? Like, I used to have a bad pattern, but I'm no longer in that pattern, nor will I ever be, because like what we have built together, and this is not talking about our business, it's just like as a unit, like we are so incredibly fulfilled with one another, and like with our, you know, personal goals and goals together at, you know, with regards to the life that we want to create for ourselves and the legacy that we want to leave behind, that like nothing is going to distract us or, you know, stop us from, you know, building that trust each and every day.
Yeah, and have you heard the term once a cheater, always a cheater?
Yes.
I've heard that before.
I disagree.
I disagree.
Yeah.
If you've been cheated on or if you've cheated, it's either that's not the right person or there was an extreme lack of communication between the two of you, and so you're not connected.
But I think that most of the time it happens because people don't work on themselves, so they don't change their ways.
You
like
don't know what you want.
Right. Like, so they keep repeating a pattern, because remember, like, we are who we are because of our habits, right? So if you have a cheating habit, unless you grow yourself out of it, you will be that. But most people don't work on their self-development, so they will be that.
I just thought about it.
What?
It's not only they're not the right person, but it's also you're not the right person.
Yes.
Okay, so we say like, oh, he's the one, but, or she's the one, but. If there's a but, they're not the one.
Yep.
They're not the one.
Yeah.
I don't say, oh, she's the one, but she has a nose ring. Nah, I can't do that. She's one,
Jewish.
but it's because then I'm asking her to change her.
Yep.
And that is not fair. So not only do you need the right person, you need to become the right person for them.
Mm-hmm. Amen.
Yeah.
I do.
And that's the point that you were hitting on, is like you might not be good with yourself. You have to also become the right person.
Do you think it's possible to get through it if it was due to lack of communication? Oh, to get over being cheated on?
It depends on what I say lack of communication, because there's intimacy lacks if you're not connected, and you're not connected if you don't talk.
Yep.
So that's kind of the route that I took with that. Now, they do need to be the right person with no buts. If there's a but, then it needs to be something that they're currently working on or that they desire to improve upon. If they don't desire to improve on it, you're out. But you also have to become the right person too. Mm-hmm. And that involves self-development, self-evolution, and humility.
And self-love too.
Self-love. And
how can you love somebody else if you can't love yourself? Shit.
A willingness to do the hard work on yourself to become the right person.
Yeah.
That's why we say, if you're not good with you, you're going to have a hard time in any relationship, because you have to be willing to do the work on you and they have to be willing to do the work on them, or else eventually shit will crumble.
Yep.
Every time, 100% of the time.
Yep. Amazing. So let's leave it as that. There's still more segments to it, but we will continue this, in our later relationship talks. We hope that you really enjoyed today's conversation. And look, if you're in a relationship and you're like, you know what, they've said some gold today, share it with your significant other, because that will be the easiest way to get them on the same page. Also, if this is a conversation that you talk about with your friends or, with your family members, like your sister, your cousin, on a regular basis, then do us a favor. And, the biggest gift that you can give us, aside from, of course, showing up and listening to us, is sharing the love, right? This is why we show up. We don't show up for ourselves. We show up for you guys and for everybody else, because we are on a mission to transform the lives of millions through the same movement, nutrition, and lifestyle habits that have transformed ours. We will not stop. We are taking you on, and as we're climbing up the mountain, and we hope that, in the process, you will bring along more people who want to know that they deserve a better life. That's what it's all about.
I want to say one more thing, because I know there's people in the room who have been cheated on and are still with that person. Mm-hmm. And they're saying you have to evaluate your own situation, and it is possible. Yes, sure. Every single situation. But that's why I said it's either that's not your person, or there was an extreme lack of communication, which means no connection. And if there's not connection, there's not intimacy. And if there's not intimacy, there's a desire to look elsewhere for it. Yeah. Right? So that's that. Right,
there's no rule book in life, right? Like we said, and here's the thing, like by the end of the day, this is a matter of your personal preference. But Erin and I have discussed that if God forbid, like we were to fuck up, I'm done with it. Like with me, I don't give you second chances. Like that's just how it works. And she knows that, and I expect the same thing from myself, right? So like
don't
for
scare
you,
me.
like your tolerance could be different, right? My tolerance level is extremely low, and that's fine, right? But that's because I've been hurt before, right? So
that's because we're at a place in our life too where it's like I don't if that's your choice, like I don't have time for that. But I also have no concern. So yeah, there's that too.
Yeah. So if you think otherwise, there's nothing wrong with that. That's for you and for your significant other to dictate what's best for you and what you're going to tolerate together as a couple. Yeah. That's that.
It's the beauty of personal preference.
It's like, do I, when I'm having a treat, do I prefer to have ice cream or do I prefer to have brownie? Maybe I prefer to have both. I don't know. It's up to you to decide. We hope that you enjoyed today's conversation. Remember, tomorrow is Friday, which means that we have a special guest interview. Tomorrow we will have the pleasure of interviewing Pete Mooseberger, who is the world record holder of the fastest 500-meter row sprint, and he is, I'm pretty sure, 62 years old.
He's senior for sure.
Yeah. So you guys, if you want to talk about like high performance, anti-aging, and really what you're able to do with your body, right? As we start growing in life, I don't like to call it aging, because I think that growing is a better term, because when you take care of yourself, you just keep growing. But really, tomorrow's conversation, I know that I'm going to learn a lot from it, because I'm expecting myself to take notes for as I evolve in life. When I'm 60 years old, I want to be doing badass shit. And this guy's at the pinnacle of his fitness at 60 years old, world record holder. That's a big deal. So, if you care to age well and grow wiser and healthier, then you'll want to definitely listen to this conversation, because I'm going to ask him some pretty interesting questions. Besides, I don't know what it is, but older men in their 60s are, I vibe so well with them. Like I'm pretty sure, like I'm a 60-year-old man in a 30-year-old woman body, but
I think the average age of our friends is
50 or 60.
50, mid-50s.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, guys.
So we hope that you guys will join us for that conversation. We will drop the Zoom link in just a couple of hours. Like we said, if you enjoyed it, please spread the love with the ones that you love. Have yourselves an amazing day, and we will catch you tomorrow at 6 a.m.
Bye.